Hi, it's Sarah-Jane here from Natural Heating, and today I am in deepest, darkest rural Norfolk, and we are here to look at an Ekol Clarity double-sided that was installed for one of my customers just 2 days ago. So we have got a large open plan space here with an open plan kitchen on one side and some beautiful views, absolutely stunning views out onto paddocks at the back. I would say, I guess, that this area on the kitchen side is probably around about 20 foot square. And there's our burner here. With a smaller area. Yeah, I'd say it's maybe about the same. No, it's definitely smaller, but the same sort of size by the time you include the staircase on the other side, and a corridor that I'm guessing goes down to bedrooms, etc., or other rooms at the bottom. I'm not going to go exploring, not my place to do so. But a big high vaulted ceiling, and the upper floor, and it's lovely and high here. So all that heat should rise, and in such an efficient house, we should get a lot of heat to upstairs. So looking about windswept, it's mighty windy out there today, but we're going to take a bit of a closer look at the Clarity. It had a small kindling type fire to get it going and test it on install yesterday. I think it was yesterday. My days are all muddled up. No, it was Friday. Today's Sunday. So it had a small kindling type fire on Friday, post-install, after Martin installed it. And I'm going to light it up today and do a video. It's warm out there today, it's only about 15 degrees. So hence t-shirt weather. So being a double-sided stove, this stove obviously has two fronts. The door handles are ludicrously easy. They're as light as a feather. So there's very little resistance and they're stupidly easy to open. So if you have got bad hands and you find things tight, you can see by me doing this with minimal pressure on one finger, they really don't take too much effort. Now, what you will find on most double-sided stoves is they'll hinge on opposite diagonals. So you'll get the hinges on the left on one side and the right on the other, whereas these ones, both the hinges are on the same side of the body. So I'm just going to open the door to let you see. Okay, so you see I'm right the way through, and both doors hinge on the same side. So on one side, we have the door opening on the right, and on the other side, the door is opening on the left. Now, typically with double-sided stoves, you have one lot of air controls. On this stove, you actually have two. So you've still got top and bottom air control on this side, and top and bottom air control on this side. However, you also have a primary air intake on one side only that pulls in and out for control. So really, this air control wants to be on whichever side you think you will use most. Now, inside, when you open the door, you can see we have a singular large ash pan which can be removed from whichever side you want, whichever way you've got it round. But there only is one ash pan, okay, although it's double. And in the base of this stove here, you can also see under the ash pan is your data plate, which shows both your serial number and your production date. Now you can see that this is an 11.4 kilowatt nominal. So 11.4 kilowatt nominal, that's the testing temperature. That's not the heat output range. This stove can go as low as 5 kilowatt and as high as 14 kilowatt to the room, which is the equivalent of 5 to 14 1 metre wide radiators in terms of heat output. How much heat you get is quite literally going to depend on how many logs you put in and how fast you're burning it. So you only put in the volume of logs once you're at temperature according to the amount of heat output you need out. And it's a simple thing of adjusting the burn rate and the volume of fuel you're putting in to control that heat output. The stove has vermiculite lined panels on the inside, and it has a cast iron grate for the bed of the floor on the inside. It is a multi-fuel, so it can be burning wood or smokeless fuel. So here you see the baffle plates, which actually just push up and come out quite easily. I'll show you in a dry one back in the shop, and air injectors on both sides in the baffle, your air wash in the front. So what we're going to do is open all the vents and get up to temperature. Right, I've just made myself a little mobile phone stand. See if we can give you better. Start by laying a decent fire on the inside. It's quite a big fire, so move those older bits to the side. I'll start with pile 3. It's always good fun. It's really windy out here today, so I'm expecting this to take off at quite a decent speed. One fire lighter should do it. It usually does. It's very rare I use more than one. But I do like a nice kindling pile because it's all about getting as much of the cold air out that chimney as fast as possible. So as we're making hot air, we're trying to push all the cold air out. It's like pushing a plug of cold air out the top, or pushing a cork out of the bottle. And once we get rid of the cold air, the stove will always light and get up to temperature quite easily. Just make sure that you have a decent kindling fire on top first. So we just light that fire, and I'll leave the door slightly ajar until it catches. Just give it a chance to take. Okay, that a bit better. You can see what I'm doing now. So that fire is starting to take quite nicely. It's not going to take long. What else can we tell you about this? It is pretty good efficiency for double-sided. Double-sided stoves don't tend to be quite as high efficiency as single-sided stoves. There's not a lot of double-sideds on the market anymore. Since the Ekol 2022 testing came in, the stoves had to be more environmentally friendly and produce less carbon and be more controllable and a whole load of other different things. Many of them just didn't pass the government testing requirements, so most of them went off sale and they just aren't available anymore because the manufacturers can't make them to the right specifications. So there's not a huge amount of choice of doubles out there. There's certainly not a huge amount of choice of good doubles out there, and it's knowing what to pick and how to run. And I do like to sell everything where possible that I've burned, sell everything that I've burned where possible, so that I know all about them, so I can help you guys too. So I know what the spares are, how things go together, having stripped them to pile of bits. It's one thing seeing a black box, it's another thing putting a bit of heart and soul into it once you've actually played with it and see it on fire and see what it does. Because they've all got their own individual personality, there's really no two models that are the same. They're fairly unique. It's a nice looking stove, this. It's got a cast iron door on either side, and it's got a welded steel body. Vermiculite lining. It's nice and thick and heavy built. It's not lightweight, it's a bit of a brute. So 6-inch flue collar. I don't think the paint has even been fully baked onto this one yet. It doesn't look like it because I'd expected a little bit more of a colour change as the paint bakes on. So it's probably going to start to smell in here when I have a good fire in it today. Yeah, it's a nicely constructed and put together stove. It looks smart, it feels lovely. My kindling fire is lit and taken away nicely now. I've still got the air vents open on both sides and the primary air intake at the bottom until that catches. With your upside down fire lighting, you can see my reflection, but with your upside down fire lighting, what happens is it keeps increasing in temperature. So it gets faster and faster and faster as the pile burns down and then catches your logs. It's quite echoey in here because there's no carpets or anything really on the floor, and it's such a big wide open space with minimal furnishing that you are hearing everything, and I can hear the wind whipping through the flue, but it is blowing a gale outside. It's not the fire that's noisy, it's just terribly windy outside there today. Very, very windy, and you can quite literally hear a pin drop in here. For example, here's a little piece of kindling on the floor. You know, it's, if you drop that on a carpet, of which there's a small rug, you wouldn't hear much, but it is an echoey building. And I think this is a polished concrete floor. You can see the seams, but it is pretty. It is nice. I don't know if there's any plans to do anything else with this or leave it as it is, really don't know. Couldn't tell you, they're not here to ask. But you can see the kindling pyre's burning down, and it's actually catching fire now to my kiln dry birch logs at the bottom, which is what I always use for testing. So I'm gonna let all 3 logs catch and then shut down the primary lower air boost intake and the bottom vents. So we'll just give that a minute or two. But this stove is pretty much the exact same size as a clock double-sided stove, but the other way round. So if you turn it 90 degrees, you'll find that the clock is narrower in width across the front, but deeper in depth compared to the wider Ekol, which is that bit shallower. So it literally depends on your fireplace opening and what you like. And which stove you prefer, because they're a very, very different feel between the two. They're probably the most similar sized type unit with what you can find. So if you're going to buy an Ekol Clarity double-sided, for example, the next alternative that you might want to consider at the same time is probably a clock double-sided, both of which are meant to be phenomenally good stoves. I have plenty of experience with all the clock models, including the double-sideds. I've been a dealer and stockist for many years. The Ekol is something that I've only had in more recent times. I have heard nothing but good things about the Ekol Clarity double-sided, and it does come in at a lower price point, so it depends on what look you want. One is much more modern, one is much more traditional. The clock is an entirely different type of build and 100% British engineering. But this is a nice looking stove, and it's definitely worth consideration. So it's taken off quite well. That is still all my kindling, as you see on the top, but my logs are now nicely on fire. So I'm going to shut, I think, I can feel good heat coming out front at the moment. It's pretty good coming out front, given it's a big space. I can feel it on my face, and I'm probably about 2 foot away from it at the moment. So I'm going to shut the bottom vent on this side, and I will do, the same on the other side. and then we will close this one. Right, so I have got all the bottom air intakes shut and the top ones remaining open. And to keep a fire burning, what we want to do is develop a good hot ember bed. There is lots and lots of pull on this fire. It is really windy out there today. But I'm just going to open the door so you can see what it does. It's not been going very long. That is still the kindling that's on the top. But there is zero spill on this, and it is on a 5-inch, not a 5-inch, it is on a 6-inch twin wall system. The stove cannot run on 5-inch. It's a minimum of a 6-inch flue. So because we want to develop a hot red ember bed, I'm going to put another log on top, which will be our burning log, and the ones that are on the base will develop into our hot red embers. With a stove of this sort of size, you do need a reasonably sized first load to get a stove like that up to temperature. So that is taking nice and quick. Now this stove is 625 millimeters wide across the top. The top does stick out a little bit compared to the bottom. So across the legs from here to here, that measurement is 570 millimeters. And the body is 430 millimeters deep from the casing. So not from here or from here, but from like what we would call leg to leg. Leg to leg depth is 430, and overall depth from here to there is 550. See, it's a nice size burner that's capable of rather a lot of heat output. 5 to 14 kilowatt is a considerable heat range. Now if I open the bottom vent, you will see on one side, let's just open both of these, you will see it immediately picks up and I can hear the difference in through the flue. But it's heating up well and it's windy, so I don't want to get going too quick. It's plenty fast enough with just the top air open on either side. Now, I don't know if you can see in here because of the reflection. You might if I zoom in. You've got all these injector holes. Oh yeah, and the doors. The doors come right the way back. So they come right the way back to like flush, fully open with the door. So they open, that doesn't make any sense. They come right back 180 degrees, so they're fully open. Be very careful that you don't end up whacking doors off a wall. Some stoves only open to 90 degrees, some open less. Just be careful and not let a door open with something like this because we don't want smashed glasses. Glasses are never a warranty issue. That's misuse or customer damage typically. None of the manufacturers warranty glass, so just take a little bit of care. Looks really pretty. Let's take a view from further back so you can see what's going on here. So I've just backed off this corridor a bit so that you can actually see what it physically looks like lit in such a big area. So lovely to be privileged enough to actually light one in somebody's home. I'm extremely grateful to these guys. That stove's only been going maybe about 15 minutes in already. I can feel it from the other side of the kitchen. Professional video this is not, but I hope you appreciate it all the same. Isn't it lovely? What better to do than be able to sit in your kitchen or in your living room than play with something like this, especially on a warm, dark winter evening. Even better if you can learn how to cook your dinner in it. And there's so many things you could do with this. You could easily, plenty of room on top to get a couple of pots or pans on it. Maybe put something such as a piece of steel plate or some tin foil on top so you don't mark your paint if you're going to do that. But we can easily show you how to cook inside it. Cooking inside it with burner stove is one of my favourite things. I'm going to have a whole load of videos coming up on that because it is just, my heart lies in fire cooking. And those of you who have been in to visit the shop and come and see me, many of you have experienced my fire cooking because just it's my greatest pleasure. I have nothing I like more than sharing food that we've cooked in the fire with customers and friends and family because it's where my heart lies. My heart lies in fire, indoors, outdoors, wherever. I just love it. Quite strangely, and a bit like me, I don't know if these guys don't like televisions or not. I don't like a television. Well, I've now got a television, but I don't watch television. I can't tell you when I last saw it. There might be one going in the fireplace, but I doubt it. And it kind of spoiled it putting a TV up there. But this is a lovely big area, and I don't see one. But you know what? I actually like having no TV. Don't see one. So maybe they're like me. Maybe they just like their fire. Maybe they just want to chill out. Or maybe they're going to put one in later. If they've been clever and hidden it somewhere, I'd quite like to know where. Okay, so this is really pulling away at a rate of knots now, and it's really whacking the heat out from both sides. It isn't yet up to temperature. A double-sided stove takes a good bit more time than a single-sided stove to come up to temperature, but it is welling the heat out on both sides. I'm really fighting the reflections in here to show you what I want to show you, but you will see that the inside baffles, they've got white patches on them. That's where the carbon has burnt off as it's starting to get up to temperature. But because you have two fronts and no back, and it's putting more heat into the room, it just takes that initial longer time to get up to temperature. And really, I want to give it another few minutes to clear that down for the best fire view. Yeah, you can see it now. Before we start limiting it. Now, if I can use my zoom, I don't know if you can see, you'll see all the air coming through these air holes. Do you know what? I don't want to make these guys' house too hot because it's not cold out there today. So what I'm going to do is reduce down one airflow. And straight away, the heat on one side of this stove has pretty much stopped, and we're directing all the heat that way rather than towards me having shut this side, because it's restricted and stopped the air jets at the top on my side. So if I go around to the other side, the jets are only coming on one side. Now I'm going to shut down the second side. And you'll see in here that fire is really coming to check and control. That's it slowing right down as it burns off the oxygen in the firebox. So there is a lot of control. But I would think that you're going to want the air open at least a little bit on both sides to be bringing fresh air that's been preheated and warmed to burn off the carbon down the glass to keep the glass clean longer. I really wish I could sit and play with this for 3 or 4 days to give you all the tips and tricks and burn performances on this unit. But that's just not going to happen. It's somebody's house, and I'm so lucky to be in here videoing this today anyway. But there's plenty of air control. Sorry I'm dashing from side to side. I'll tell you what, let's put it back on our makeshift stand. It's so loud and echoey in here that you should still be able to see in here anyway. So we'll look at the fire change on the inside. I'm going to put another soft one in, not because it needs more fuel, another small one in. Not because it needs more fuel, so that you've got plenty of flame to see what I'm actually doing. So you can see the effect, the burn effect of what the air controls are doing. So that should light and give us plenty of flame in just a few seconds. It's got tons of draw on there, especially so with that wind out there. It really is whipping high out there today. Okay, so we should be seeing plenty going on there. I'm going to do that side first. And I'm going to fully turn down the air control on this kitchen side. Now, you'll be able to see before I can the difference that it's made, but it's really dulled down on this side, and I can still see it's fast on your side. And you can actually physically feel the heat on that side drop, whereas there's a slight difference in the heat on the living room side, which is good, but not the same amount of difference that's on the kitchen side. So it does mean that I'm going to be directing more heat to the living room side. A fan on that would obviously help. If you have a fan on a stove going one direction, it's going to push all the heat one way. If you want a more even heat, 2 fans on the stove going both one in each direction, you'll give it more balanced heat. Or to push almost all the heat one direction, you can put 2 fans on the one side. Fans on double-sided are one of the things I really think you should have. And Valiant's, the Valiant Premier 4 is currently my favourite fan. They seem to have better lifespan than most. They have very good air control. They have a 2-year warranty, which you really won't have problems with as long as you've got a copy of your receipt. They're just probably the most durable fan that has the best lifespan out there. So Valiant Premier 4 is my go-to. We do keep them in stock. We can ship them anywhere in the country. I'll put a link in the video. I'm going to shut this second for you. Now, typically it's going to take about 10 seconds to burn off all the oxygen in such a large firebox, and then you see the full effect. Yes, I can see the air at the top of that firebox, and we've now got it's canned right down with the air injectors are kicking in. I'm going to turn it a little bit open on both sides and see if we can get this nicely stabilised. We want a good rolling burn. Now, when you have a flame, if you have a red flame, it's too cool because it's less heat. When you have an orange flame, it's nice and hot. And when it's yellow-orange or yellow, it's very, very hot. So what we're aiming to do is have either a reddy orange or an orangey yellow flame, and no bright yellow ones and no dark red ones. You want it in the middle. You want a good rolling burn for best performance. And I'd say that looks just about right. I am perfectly happy with that. The heat output's brilliant, and the air control is only about 1/4 open on each side of the top. There you go, you see? And I'd say that the balance on that is just lovely. It's a nice rolling flame with good heat output, and it's not tearing away. So in a day like today, if we've got good control and it's not tearing away, we're doing something right. You shut right down again, because I'm playing, I'm learning. I've got to learn every unit, and it's dulling back more. By the time that lot is burnt right down, which is probably going to take another 40 minutes maybe, they'll have a lovely red ember bed. And at that point, if you wanted to just put one log on top, you could. It's all about, the first fire is all about developing enough red ember, and you need plenty of fuel for the first fire to do that. In small stoves, it may only take 2 logs. In a bigger stove like this, it's going to take a few more. Be careful that they're not too big. We're only looking for them to be no more than about 3 to 4 inch diameter, but definitely split and not whole rounds when you're first lighting a fire. Now, I definitely want that a little bit open to help keep my glass clean. So we'll have a smidge on both sides. So as you can see, most of that is shut down, that amount's open, and all the other air controls are shut. So it's definitely getting pretty warm in here, as you can no doubt tell by the colour of my face, and I think we'll leave it at that. But I hope you've enjoyed it, because it's certainly been most useful to me.